True Sim Pro Gaming presents The Dialogue. I'm DT Elam alongside Yusuf Q, aka the Burger Man. Today we got a special guest. He is True Sim Boxing's first champion, and a great champion he was. Welcome, Dopeson. Thank you for joining us today.
Appreciate y'all having me. What's going on, gentlemen? Appreciate that intro too.
It's been a long time. It's clap for that.
Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all. What's going on?
All right, there is a lot to chop it up about today. There's huge news in the boxing world. On the gaming side of things, I mean, there's a lot of connotations there as well. It all kind of ties together, and it all kind of starts with Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudis, all the moves they've been making. Berger, what do you think about all these moves they're making?
It's interesting. I mean, they got a big ton of money, and to see where they place it at, it's incredible. I mean, since they've been in boxing, they've been making boxing more lucrative. It's the bag they got. Let's see what the future holds. I mean, hopefully it's a bright future. What you think, Dope, son?
Um, I mean, as a boxing fan, right? I just hope that their intentions are pure. I'm very skeptical about what they have planned. But I have no control over the situation, so I guess I'm gonna have to sit back and watch what happens. But gotta say, even though we've been getting some big fights recently, I'm not too hopeful of what it means for the overall future of boxing.
Hmm.
I think that ever since Turkey and the Saudis purchased the Ring magazine, they really started emphasizing that Ring championship again. I think that's a good thing. That's been a belt for what, 70 years, maybe longer than that. But the Ring, I believe Oscar De La Hoya had majority ownership of that, ended up selling it to Turkey and them. Uh, and I think that that's brought us a lot of good fights. So I agree with you, Dope Son. I mean, from a perspective of a boxing fan, like, it has been good, but I too am also really skeptical because the Saudis done this with golf. If we all
Right.
remember, like, what was that, 5, 10 years ago, something like that. It was a while ago, it seems like. But they did this with golf. I mean, and I don't really hear a lot about their golf, but I also don't follow golf.
Golf. Right. You gotta follow golf to know.
Right. And
So
I mean,
out.
and we see them doing it in other realms as well, right? Like they just did that big comedy show with all those comedians, and there was a lot of backlash towards them, right, for accepting it. I mean, for accepting the bag. But we see them doing it in various other forms of entertainment. You got Formula One, video games, etc., right? So it's clear that they're investing to become the entertainment capital of the world, right? I think seems like that's what their plan is.
Yeah, the new
most
the new HBO.
Right. I
most
mean,
definitely.
eventually, that oil money might dry up eventually, so they got to have something else to offer, right? So,
That is very true. As we move towards a world of possible without having to need oil like that, eventually, yeah, that money will definitely dry up. But they are buying everything, and you hit it right there on the head when you said they're also venturing into video games, and they've purchased EA, and that is huge. I mean, everything from The Sims to Madden to, I mean, they got the whole like video game world cornered right now, which also makes you raise a kind of eyebrow about the return of Fight Night. Turkey saying he was coming out with his own boxing game. Uh,
That is true. That is true.
right, right.
I heard there was a little split between Turkey and Ash, so maybe this is where all this energy is coming from. You know what I mean? But they also, I think they bought 13% of the zone. How do you feel about that, Dopeson? Like they're trying to get everything.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of the zone as it is. But I mean, it's clear to me. I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get into it, but we can't ignore the other big elephant in the room, right? Which is Dana White. So to me, it seems that they're attempting a full coup on boxing, right? They're buying up the media outlets, they're buying up the video game platforms, right? And video game publishers. They're they're just basically trying to take over the sport, right? They want to they I'm sure we'll lead into it more, but them buying the zone is just another example of what I think is a bigger picture here, right? Which is that they're attempting to buy the sport, essentially.
Monopoly. There's a monopoly trying to monopolize
Right.
everything.
Right.
Something like the Undisputed did with their game, with the boxing game. There is no other boxing game. You gotta play Undisputed, no matter because there is nothing else. What you gonna play?
Right. I mean, there are other boxing games, right? But they're not good, right? And I mean, do they have exclusive rights to the fighters on the game?
Undisputed?
Yeah, I don't think they have exclusive rights, right? They do?
Yeah, for
Yes.
Ali.
Oh,
Remember,
so
remember we went to
right,
the Paley
right.
Museum and they have 37 years of, you know,
Hmm.
we don't know what's the back note from every fighter because we're not in those rooms.
Right. But I know
But
they did buy the rights for Ali, the
Yes,
exclusive
locking
rights,
down
which
Ali was a
oof,
big kind of a power move for whoever tries to put out the next big game, whether
right.
that be EA or someone else.
and that's it. I mean, maybe I don't know. I mean, I wish I had more information on that, but like you said, Ali is the one we know that has 30, they locked in for 37 years. You know what I mean? Maybe Canelo too. We don't know.
And with all that, with all that they're scooping up, there's whispers and mutters that they might be buying Matchroom. I mean, just
Yes,
completely
yes.
taking over another promotional company. And I mean, would they use that as a farm for Turkey and Dana's Zuffa Boxing League?
At a whole different league. That
As
league is
Matchroom for the most part is a lot of UK fighters and international fighters.
Right.
Um, I want to say right now,
Well, they have Boots
Richard
Ennis, right? And they have
Boots.
Shakur was with them. He might extend his contract, right? So they have a few US stars in there.
So I
But
mean,
is Eddie Hearn willing to give up his baby though, right? I don't know. That's kind of hard for me. It's gonna have to be a big bag.
yeah, because his dad built that, and it's a family thing. So
Right.
but money talks. Money talks. I would never have thought that EA would be bought out in my life, ever.
Well, how much was it? I think it was in the
66,
billions, right?
66 billion
66
something.
billion, right? Tens of billions, right?
Yeah, come
So I
on.
mean, not anybody just has that kind of cash either, right? So
You might as well take it now, right? I
right.
and
mean,
And that was
speaking
an acquisition. That's buying a public company to make them private, right? Like,
wow.
man, yeah, that's big money right there.
my question is, why did they make that private though? Why would they make it private?
Is that more control?
More control? Okay.
Same reason they want to privatize boxing, right? So they can have more control, and we'll see where it takes them.
Well, we definitely know they're taking it to the new Zuffa League, and that league's going to be really interesting because it's not going to recognize, the WBC, the WBO, WBA, you know, the IBF. Like there's just going to be recognition of the Ring Magazine and the Zuffa belt. I guess purses, there's going to be like a set purse with the pay structures. They're not going to have it kind of how it is right now, where the fighters can kind of demand big pay for their big names, kind of how big of a draw they are. It's going to be a lot like UFC in a sense of the way the fighters are paid. Boxers are protected instead of in a way over the Ali Act, as they have to be up front. The promoters have to be up front with what's being generated and expected generated, and like that's made a big difference inside fighters not winding up broke. the
Right.
last,
Right.
25, 30 years.
Right. And I don't know if what they're doing is even legal at this point, right? With the Zuffa League, I mean, right, he just mentioned the Ali Act, right? And the reason why that was created was to essentially prevent people starting leagues like this, having the manager be the promoter, right? And be the sanctioning body all in one, right? Because
Yeah.
then, I mean, to me, just to be honest, all of this just seems bad, right? You have the Saudis, you have Dana White wanting this UFC style league, right? And now a lot of fans would be like, hey, I'm a boxing fan, right? I'm not a professional boxer. I'm not a promoter. So a lot of people would say, well, why do you care about how much boxers make, right? But I think it's important that we maintain some integrity of the sport, right? Because obviously boxing is already very corrupt, but it could definitely be worse, right? If it gets monopolized. Um, and then, you're losing the incentive for young fighters to really want to go and be the next Floyd Mayweather or the next Oscar De La Hoya or Canelo Alvarez, right? A boxer who turns to a champion, who turns into a promoter and makes even bigger money, right? With the UFC, with the Dana White Turkey-led boxing league, there's not going to be any Mayweathers, there's not going to be any Canelos, right? It's going to be Dana White in Turkey, and you can either get with it and earn whatever money they offer you, or you can just not box, right? You could go fight Jake Paul in an exhibition. That's what we're gonna come down to. Like there's gonna be a lot more Tank Davises fighting exhibitions, right? Instead of fighting for championships if this whole thing goes through. Right. And look at the NBA, right? Look at the NFL. You could say, hey, they have umbrella. The NFL kind of monopolizes football, right? And the NBA monopolizes basketball a bit, not to as much of an extent, but they have those players associations, right, where they bargain with the team owners, right, and the players have a lot of leverage in those situations, and that's why they get paid insane amounts of money, right? LeBron James makes a whole lot more than John Jones. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, and there's a lot of money coming in the UFC too. It's just that the fighters have no bargaining in the UFC, so it's not good. In my opinion, it's not good.
I mean, the plus side is probably one belt, right, for each weight class. That's what I was talking about. One silver belt for every weight class, which is cool. But like you said, there's the cons where you're not gonna get paid the same. It's gonna be a little bit of favoritism because then the guy who's going to generate more money is gonna get a bigger
Right.
bag.
Right. Because me,
Then,
I'm a fan. I don't care about how much they're making. Really, that doesn't impact my life. I mean, I wish them the best. I love when I see the fighters become their own promoter, right, and start their own promotional company and start
Mhm.
getting like into the business of boxing. I do like that. But at the end of the day, it doesn't impact my bottom line, right? But at the end of the day, long term, it's gonna hurt the sport. There's gonna be less people interested. There's gonna be less talent attracted to the sport, which is gonna water down the product. And then again, you're gonna have super talented fighters that think they're worth more, and they do. They're right to feel that way because look at the money that they generate, right? If they're not being shared earnings fairly, but they're still generating massive amounts of money. The fighters have every right to say, I'm not going to fight. I'm not going to do this, right? Because now there's no independent contractors anymore. There's no boxing entrepreneurs, right? Now it's just you can either fight and get what Dana and them want to pay you, or you're just not going to fight. And that's bad, right? Because then you're going to lose a lot of talent just who don't want to be down, right?
I think it's important that, as you noted, Burger, that one appealing thing that's seen with the Zuffa boxing would be like one belt, and obviously the Ring Magazine belt would also, which at that point, all they would have to do would be either strip the Ring Magazine belt for fighters who aren't getting down with Zuffa, or I mean, I don't know how they would do that without paying big money to the fighters that hold the Ring Magazine belt now. But imagine if you would boxing with no chance of unification. I mean that's an interesting concept to me. it's not that appealing as a boxing fan. I really like whenever there's a clash of champions.
Right. I mean, and I say, what good is one belt if not every fighter is participating? Right.
Exactly. They have to be
So,
obtainable.
right. I mean, the way you have it now, it's like if somebody's not, if there's a promotional company and a sanctioning body that's more aligned with each other, a boxer can always go get the IBF, or they could always go get the WBO, right? Look at Bud Crawford and Errol Spence situation, right? Imagine if Al Heyman was Dana White in this situation. Bud Crawford would have never got any belts,
Right.
right? He would have never gotten any belts. Or imagine if Bob Arum was Dana White after Bud Crawford left Top Rank, right? You're not getting after you sever that tie. Imagine if somebody tries to sue Dana White, right? And they win. They might get money, but they're never fighting again under this new model, right?
Yeah,
They're never fighting
exactly.
again. So totally against it. Even if in the short term, yeah, we're getting great fights. The Bivol versus Better BF fights were great. Remember we watched the first one down in Philly with Sean Porter and crew. Canelo versus Bud, like all these are great fights and great events, but it's very short term. People who are being sold on this, they're thinking very short term, right? Because what's Tank Davis doing during this, and some of these other guys who don't really want to play ball with the Saudis, right? What's gonna happen to them?
You're gonna have like a war almost.
They're gonna
Yeah.
be doing exhibitions, right? They're gonna be blackballed from the sport.
Well, I mean, and the beauty of the zone, and unfortunately, like you said earlier, there's 13% buy-in from the Saudis. But the beauty of the zone was whenever it first launched, it kind of painted a picture of an umbrella for boxing, like everywhere everyone can be right there. And there for a split minute, especially at the end of Top Rank's run with ESPN, you
Right,
start to think, oh man, they might jump over there. And
right.
imagine if PBC also jumps in there, and it's just like, wow, to be in one place for everything. But I think that maybe all of these promotional brands could be bought out by the Saudis. I mean,
Personally, I don't like that though. Personally, I like variety when it comes to boxing. Like, I'm
mm,
not a huge fan of the zone's presentation, right? And I'm really gonna miss Top Rank on ESPN because I like just, oh, it's a Saturday night, I'm out at the bar. It's not pay-per-view, it's just on TV, and they got the fight
Right.
on. And I'm
Right.
watching Devin Haney versus Kambosos on cable, right? Or I'm watching any big Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor, right? On ESPN. Like I love that, man. And watching those guys, Abdullah Mason and Jared Anderson and all those guys, like watching all their fights of their career on ESPN. I'm gonna miss that. So I like the variety. Um, I personally I wouldn't be a fan of everything being on the zone because one of the reasons why I don't like UFC, man, I just think the presentation, the brand is just dry. I feel
well,
like I'm not the target demographic
In the
for the UFC.
zone's defense, though, I mean, they'll have cards that are Golden Boy cards that
Right,
are completely different and set up different than the way that the Queensberry cards are, or
right, right.
they'll just have some weird promotional,
I mean, they've gotten
something.
better. They've definitely gotten better since they first came out. I will say the production value, but I like that variety, man. I like that variety, different platforms to see things on. Not if it's costing me more money, right?
Right.
Not if it's not consumer friendly. But again, like I'm gonna miss Top Rank on ESPN for sure. You know.
Yeah. Ah, definitely. Recipe Top Rank on ESPN. And hopefully Top Ranks finds a home soon. I haven't really heard anything. I mean, it seems like Netflix would make sense
Right,
as Top Rank is probably like, I don't want to say the most casual friendly, but like you said, like anybody that saw boxing, they could at a regular place, on regular TV. It's Top Rank. And Top Rank's been around forever,
right.
since like the 70s.
Yeah, I
So I
mean Bob
mean,
Arum, yeah, he's been around forever.
yeah. So yeah, definitely
I have a question. Do we know any fighters that signed to SOFA at the moment? Or no, is this is still brand new and it's still building?
I don't think we know anybody that signed, but we do know that they did sign a deal with Paramount Plus. So we know that they're going to launch in January 2026, Paramount Plus. And I mean, it's the fourth quarter of the year right now. They're definitely going to start, at least they have to have some kind of appealing names to launch it.
Mhm.
They can't.
My
They
guess is
ain't.
this: they're gonna have Crawford as one of the faces because he's cool with Turkey. They're gonna owe him. They're gonna owe him a shit ton of money to do that. You know what I mean? You
Well,
get
they better.
him. I mean, he deserves it. Like, I mean, it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you get a guy like Crawford. You get a guy like, let's say, Tank and Canelo there already. It'll make it lucrative enough to people to want to watch. They need at least 10 to 15 fighters to make it lucrative. Like, you know what I mean? They're gonna,
Well,
I'm gonna
another one of my concerns, right, is that what the Saudis have been doing with all these fights, right, all these big events, these events have not been profitable, right? They haven't been making any money off of this. So, I mean, I don't think there's anybody on the planet who likes losing money, right? There are people who invest money, which is what they're doing. But what's gonna eventually they're gonna want to get profits from this. And what happens then, right? Eventually they're gonna be like, look, we're not paying you $100 million, Alexander Usyk, right, to fight. Like we own it now, and you're gonna get paid what we want to pay you. That's what I see eventually happen. Because how realistic is it to think that they're going to continue throwing these massive events while losing tens of millions of dollars each time, right?
So how much a super fighter like Usyk or Crawford should get if they go
I
over
think that
there?
they should get a fair split of the revenue that they generate. That's what I feel, right? They're the ones going in there risking their lives, taking all that punishment. And at the end of the day, they're who we want to see. They are the attraction, right? That's the only thing that matters. You could try to throw Bud versus Canelo, but if Bud and Canelo aren't there, how much money you gonna make, right? So
Right.
that's why the fighters deserve, 70 to 80% of the proceeds, I think, or something in that realm, right? Of course, there are people who have to put up money for to do the production and the venue and everything, right? But the fighters need to be the bulk of the money. And you can't have a UFC situation where the fighter's making less than 10% of the money that's being generated, right? The entire fight card, all of the purses combined for the fighters is oftentimes less than 10% of what the event generates.
And honestly, UFC fighters could be a direction that they end up pushing. A lot of fighters have boxing backgrounds or at least train in boxing. They might just start allowing UFC fighters to get in the ring.
Hmm,
As there have been some profitable, for Jake Paul, the UFC fighters he's fought. There have been big punchers in the UFC. Some people would probably pay to see Sugar Shane O'Malley.
right.
I know he's a striker. I don't really follow UFC at all, but I do know that there are some good punchers out there. So I think that they might go that route. But honestly, as far as that goes, it's all speculation. We're all just kind of waiting.
Mhm.
But right now we do have a lot of fights coming up. Like Dopeson, like Berger and I broke down some fights last week, and went through some of the upcoming fights. What
Right.
fights are you excited about?
Um, so we did have the Boots fight this past weekend, right? I'm really hoping that he'll fight Ortiz next, early next year. I think that fight's gonna happen next.
It
That'll be a
should.
great young
It
fight
should.
with two undefeated fighters, right? Young fighters. I know there's this Benavidez versus Yardy card coming up,
Right.
and I think it's stacked, right? Like I forget what's on the undercard, but there's like five good fights on that one.
Yes.
Um, I'm not sure if that's what Stephen Fulton and O'Shaquie Foster are fighting on,
I,
or maybe that's the Pitbull Cruz and Lamont Roach card. I think I saw
Yes.
something about that going on with that one. Zanabek versus Lara,
yeah, that got announced.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
I'm
Foster versus
excited. That's a
Fulton.
unification.
There's a lot of big fights coming up. Should be a good winner. I just wonder what's going to happen with the heavyweight division. You know?
Yeah, the heavyweight division don't have a whole lot going. I know there was a pretty good fight over across the seas this last weekend.
Oh yeah,
The big Eastern European guy who got
the one.
bodied by Cabela, he fought. What is that British guy? It's like Davy Williams or something like that. It's like a regular old guy name, and he's a good lad, and he's chinned a lot of guys. But like it was a good fight, but he ended up getting beat in that fight. David Allen was his name.
Uh,
But I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot going on. Joseph Parker does have a fight coming up with Fabio Wardley. That's going to be
hmm.
a great fight in the
I
heavyweight
want
division.
Parker versus Usyk, man. You know, I'm not getting out of
He,
bed for that
he's
one.
he's he's earned it. Him and
Yeah,
Chappelle.
and I felt he had a good chance against Anthony Joshua too in their fight, but I don't know if you guys remember that fight, but the
Yeah.
referee was horrible, and the referee did not let them fight on the inside, which is obviously going to favor the taller fighter, right? So I feel like he didn't really get a fair shot against Joshua. I think if he fought Joshua now, he'd win.
Oh yeah, no doubt
Joseph
about
Parker.
that.
So
But
I
I would
think,
also would point before that fight, if you remember, Parker fought for his belt. It was actually a vacant belt, and he fought Andy Ruiz.
mm,
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and
right.
that fight was real close. And I watched it a couple times. I've often thought, man, Andy kind of won this. It felt like there was a little bit of home team
Hmm.
spirit around, because they did fight it down in New Zealand, and but it's funny how that turned out. They both ended up touching some gold, and hopefully Joseph Parker gets a shot again because he deserves it with the fights that he's fought and the
Right.
wins that he's got. I mean, no doubt about that.
Right.
Look at
And
that
then the other
Haney.
one I'm really looking forward to is Lopez versus Stevenson as well.
That's the one I was. Yeah, yeah. I
You
got,
know,
I got
hopefully we get
Shakur.
that one.
I got
You got, yeah,
Shakur.
I got scoring that all day, man. Yeah, I think it's too
But,
sharp for
but
Lopez.
Teofimo, he when he comes to fight, he comes
He
to
does,
fight.
and he's an explosive, talented fighter, right? But I think it's a bad style matchup for him. He's against like more flat-footed fighters like Teofimo, like versus Josh Taylor, right? Put on a show.
Yeah,
Barbosa put on a show.
yeah.
It's hard to put on a show versus Shakur. I was at the Zapata fight, and Zapata
Oh,
put
you
on
was there? I was there
yeah, I was
too,
there. Oh, you
Queen. I
were
was
there?
there,
Okay,
Queen. I was there. I
yeah.
went there.
That was another great event, right?
William
Yeah,
Another
Zapata's
great
my
turkey
dude.
event. But Zapata put on a respectable showing, right? But that's how you got to be. You got to throw volume at Shakur, man. You can't be sitting there trying to land the big one, man. That's not gonna work, right?
how'd you
He'll
feel?
Yeah.
cruise to an easy victory.
How'd
So
you feel? How'd you feel when Berlanga got knocked out? That was crazy, right?
I expected that, man. I expected
Yeah,
that.
I knew he was
I
gonna
never
lose. But
never been, I was rooting for him. I was rooting for him for the hometown kid, but I never been big on high on Berlanga. Like I said, I ESPN watched his whole career. As soon as he stepped up his competition, man, he did not look the same, right? After all those first round knockouts. So I thought he was gonna get more outboxed. I didn't think it was gonna go down exactly like that,
he
but
got
I
pounded
wasn't too
on.
surprised,
He
man.
got
I always
pounded.
thought it was from a shoulder injury, to be honest. Like he's his not right after his knockout streak ended, like he had some kind of
Hmm.
shoulder surgery, and I always figured that had something to do with it. But yeah, he got yeah, yeah. There ain't no more
And that
Berlanga.
was part of the reason why I was giving Bud a big chance to beat Canelo. Because I'm like, look at the guys Canelo fought recently,
Oh,
right?
you got one for
Berlanga,
Bud.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
Berlanga,
yeah.
Mungia,
Munguia, right?
William
Caleb Plant.
Skull.
None of them guys look good since, right? And it ain't because of Canelo. I think they're just on the decline.
Yeah,
So, and
especially
then
Caleb Plant. He dropped the bag, and lost that
well,
fight, and they
Plant
had
is
that
a good
Charlo
fighter, but he
match
always he
already
always
lined up.
fades. Right? He always fades. Every fight he fades. He looks good for the first 6 rounds, 7 rounds, then he fades, man. That's his Achilles heel. So
But yeah, we do have a lot of great boxing coming up, and it's been great chopping it up, guys. A dope son, thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for sharing some knowledge of chopping it up with us. And you have anything to follow or plug in, feel free to do that now.
absolutely, man. Appreciate y'all having me on here. I have been working on my new YouTube channel. It's called Dope Salita. It's a Filipino themed YouTube channel. So any Filipino viewers out there, make sure you check it out. Appreciate y'all having me on the show. Shout out True Sim, shout out, Burger, DT, Grumps, the whole family. So appreciate y'all, man.
Thanks, dope
Thank you,
son.
thank you, thank you, dope son.
Well, Burger, True Sim Pro Gaming. It's how you play the game. Here we are, the dialogue, ended it out. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow us, and Burger Man, until next time, can't wait for there to be more dialogue.
God bless.